Welcome back to the DnazChannel. Channel. And today is a day of worship. That's right, it's a day of worship. Sunday Mass, if you will. But today we aren't worshiping the God that you think, ladies and gentlemen. We are not worshiping Yahweh today. Today we are worshiping the serpents. That's right, the serpents. We are going to go into serpent worship. It is a very interesting thing in our history, and it's undeniable. And if you haven't heard, I don't know how, but if you haven't heard, you say, what is serpent? What do you mean serpent worship? You know, I'm going to tell you. If you go to the Black Sea area of the world, Greece, where Rome was, you can't walk Turkey, right? You can't walk 5 feet without stepping over a temple with a snake in it, right? If you go to Mexico, you will see Quetzalcoatl, the fiery serpent guy. All their temples built with serpents. The stairs. When the sun goes over the stairs of one of I think a Mayan temple or something, it slithers down like a snake. Right? Right here in America, what do we have? Serpent's Mound. Giant mound to the serpent, right? What is the serpent? What the heck is this serpent, right? And then you have the stories of Jesus and the serpent. We could talk about Jesus and the serpent because a lot of people were high on snake venom back in the 3rd century BC, but we'll get to that, right? So you'll see people here with traditions, Catholic, Christian, crazy traditions where they pray with snakes, okay? Serpent worship has been around forever. You can just type in temples of serpents. Just type in serpent statues, ancient serpent statues. You will get millions of results. There are, everywhere you go across the world, you can't walk anywhere without there being a temple to serpent worship. Okay, it is all over the entire world. South America, North America, Europe, Africa, everywhere you see the serpent. Even on our medical vehicles, on our ambulances, you see the Asclepius, right? The staff with the 2 serpent heads. Because medicine came at a time where people were using snake venom to get high. This is recorded. Dr. Amen talks about this, Amen Hillman. You can look him up. But we've known about the serpent worship, and we've known about these snake venoms. It's written down in all these different and all these crazy texts, all the, the Greek magical papyrus. Like if you look at Galen has all these works. He's an ancient physician. He has all these works on antidotes because back then, people get bit by the vipers, like the deep sass, right? The North American horned viper. People get bit by these things, and they realized it had an effect, right? And they were looking up antidotes, because you die from these things, right? But there's a certain thing that comes with death and comes with this out-of-body experience. And I'm explaining because even Jesus says, he died for 3 days, was resurrected. They were putting people in a death state and resurrecting them. That's what they were doing. This is a known thing. Let me explain. The movie, The Rainbow Serpent. There's a movie, The Rainbow Serpent, right? Talks about a guy. It's based on a guy who is my man, Robert Evan Schultz, who went to the South American jungle, the Amazon, and he stayed with tribes down there. And his name is on like 3,000 plants. He's the reason why I am in school for plants, right? He went down there. He brought ayahuasca back, and he found that experience, that psychedelic. He found that he found anesthesia. He brought back anesthesia from them because they were putting people in a death state, and then they were bringing them back to life. This created anesthesia for our surgery. These were from the drugs, the plants that shamans were using for thousands of years. It's still carried on today. You could still find these traditions and tribes today, but they were using snake venom thousands of years ago, and there are temples to this all over the friggin' world. And that there's all different types of medicine. The Native Americans, they would tie people to a tree. They would get tied to a tree and fast and starve themselves for 3 days until they get an out-of-body experience, because Fasting gives you an out-of-body experience. It gives you, not just out-of-body, it gives you a vision of God, if you will. It gives you what you need. You need that experience because you have that DMT, you have it in your brain already, and it will naturally secrete mixed with serotonin. That is the milk and the honey. Talks about it in the Bible, 33. Jesus was 33. It goes up your 33 vertebrae, right? And it travels to your pineal gland, and you have that liquid in your brain already, and it gets dispersed. It can disperse on its own if you know how to work the moon cycle and you know how to fast on the right time, right? So, nonetheless, having these experiences, having these psychedelic experiences, these hallucinations, was a huge thing throughout our entire history. And they don't want to show you that in school. They don't want to show you that the Romans were using drugs every day. The Greeks, they were using drugs every day. Drugs came from them. They were experimenting with drugs way back then. That's how they had their medicine. The Roman market was flooded with drugs, okay? So they just don't want to accept that and see that we've had cures for things for a long time. Written down in ancient Greek, we have cures for diabetes, so many diseases. All the diseases we have cures for, written down in ancient Greek. Sitting and collecting dust in our libraries, we have books from Galen. We have works from great doctors that you've never heard of that studied after Galen or before. Women physicians, right? You have all these beautiful things from history. History can bring you so much, but there's a lot of history sitting in our libraries not being researched with cures and all sorts of things. But all this medicine and all this science came from the desire to have that psychedelic experience, right? Which is why people are praying to snakes, the mushroom worship, plant worship, all this stuff, nature, worshiping nature, that right there is exactly what you are supposed to live for. To be shown the oneness of the universe, to be shown that you are part of everything, that you, right, you yourself are God, right? To be given that because God is within you. It's always been within you. So these temples, these things, that knowledge, when they're having these experiences, they are getting knowledge from the ether, right? Whatever you want to call it. The Akashic records, all these things that people like to talk about. Yeah, they're because you're part of the one. And when you take these drugs, you are opening up your brain and becoming part of the one again. You are expanding your consciousness. And they knew that for thousands of years, and they're building temples and they're aligning it with the moon and the stars and this and that when the solstices come, because the winter solstice is a huge time for that you should be fasting. And if you look at the Hilaria, which is our Christmas today, and all these parties they were having, and all for the solstices, and you look at the times that they were fasting and these rituals that they were doing for thousands of years and building temples as a society, right? This and fasting and all this thing, the reason why they were doing that is because they were getting the vision of God from it. You don't need drugs to get the vision of God. You can fast at the right time. Your birth month, when the moon, where the moon changes on your birth month, right? The phase change of the moon on your birth month. Those 3 days are your fasting days. No food, just water. Read more about it. Those are your fasting days. And then you can release that, holy secretion right there. The holy chrism, they call it, right? The milk and honey. The milk and honey, serotonin and DMT. The milk and honey that is in you. If you want, even Jim Carrey has talked about this live on a channel. He's talked about this before. A lot of celebrities know about this. They know what the truth is, that this has been the way for you to heal. The reason why people were healing, like they were baptizing. You want to talk about being baptized? They were baptizing them in drugs because they knew that healing, giving you that vision of God, burning off your mortality. knowing that you should not fear death because you do not die, you go back to the all. Burning off your mortality, your fear of death gone. And it was a religious rite. It was a rite of passage. It's like coming of age, a coming of age passage that we don't do anymore for our women, our daughters, our men. We don't do any of that. We don't celebrate them coming of age anymore. We don't make that a beautiful thing anymore. Okay? But we used to. And we used to make that was that's why we have all these things for fertility goddesses. Women were worshipped for thousands of years, and women created medicine. You want to know how medicine started? Because they was trying to relieve the pains of birth. That relief of pain of birth, that is where the research started, from the midwives. The midwives. And who is your great mother? Who is your great midwife that took you from the realm of the gods and brought you into this world? Who is the midwife? Who is your midwife? Because you should meet her someday, right? And maybe she will show you everything. And maybe that'll come through your realization of what the world really is, how you can get your experience for yourself, right? This was an important right that was given to everybody for thousands of years. Through antiquity, this was practiced. They would get together in temples and they would give people. That's why when you go to church, they use song, because song, you can get this feeling from song, right? You could play your heartstrings with notes, with music, right? That can release your energy, your DMT. There's so many ways to release that, to have a religious experience. And I don't even want to call it a religious experience. I'm sorry. Just a real experience, an experience of the real, an experience of being alive and being connected to the all and knowing, right? And having that awakening, they call it, a great awakening, the woke, right? A great awakening, to have that releasing your brain of your milk and honey. There's so many ways to get it, right? Whether it's praying, whether it's going to church, music, however you get it, right? Get more of it. Enjoy more time of that. Realize that you need to spend more time within yourself, that God is within yourself, right? Beauty. Realize beauty of the world. Realize everything good. But also realize we've been worshiping serpents for a long time, because that was the point of this. What was the point of this? I wanted to tell you more about that. Look up all in the Bible. Look up people worshiping snakes here, like Deep South Louisiana, right? People were praying with snakes for a long time. They were using snake venom to put people into a death state. And then they had a cure called the Galene, right? It's a sick thing. They were bringing people back out of death, and they would come back. They would wake up. They would be so happy after you go in, they probably went through so many different emotions, and then they came out healed. They came out friggin' healed. And just watch the movie The Rainbow Serpent. It's a great movie. It's a great friggin' movie. And there's a lot of temples around the world, serpents everywhere. You'll start to notice it if you look up old pictures with old statues and stuff. And you'll be like, wow, that is interesting that the serpent is everywhere. Yes, it's a hidden message. You got to think think of your world like a computer program. So you can look up these messages that are encoded in it from our past. That's why I say history is important. History is very important. So dig up your past. We're necromancers after all. So dig up the dead. Let them tell you what history was. Don't believe somebody else. Let them tell you. Let them show you. Use your eyes, right? Get smarter to what the world is, and that it is your world and you are the gods, and let's construct a beautiful world. We'll see you next time on the DnazChannel.